But the, the regulations that govern the, any kind of advertising or promotion that pharma is doing right now is the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, which has been in effect for many, many decades and has not really changed that much. Labeling would include anything that is actually on your product itself or included with the packaging. So your PI and the box and any kind of kit you might put together. That's all considered labeling, so that's covered under FDCA. And then there's also prescription drug advertising, which is pretty much anything else that you use to promote your product. The requirements are that you have a true statement and that the information is not false or misleading. You have to talk about the side effects and contraindications. There needs to be a fair balance of pro and con, if you will. And the stick that FDA wields is accusing your product of being misbranded. And we've seen this go all the way last week to indictments of 3 individual sales managers at a medical device company criminally for misbranding a bone replacement product. So the government has a lot of leverage and has a lot of clout to go after companies for any kind of advertising or promotional violation. But again, FDA has never comprehensively addressed the internet, but they still maintain jurisdiction over everything that we do that appears on the internet or in social media. And again, there are no specific regulations on internet promotion separate from the traditional media promotional methods. So is it the media or is it the message? There was a meeting in 1996, which I think, again, our friend John Mack actually attended 13 years ago on the promotion of regulated products on the internet. It was a public meeting. They wanted to get information on things like chat rooms and news groups, which are kind of quaint to us now, I guess. And website links. But unfortunately, nothing official ever came out of that meeting. FDA apparently gathered some information and just kind of moved on. They have mentioned websites and things like YouTube videos in untitled and warning letters that they have sent to companies, usually in the context of a broader promotional slap on the wrist or a promotional punishment, until the end of March this year when they issued the 14 untitled letters on sponsored links on paid search. I'm sure you're all familiar with these. 14 different pharma companies received letters regarding the alleged impropriety of their internet advertising in the pay-per-click model for paid search. They usually included a link to the product's website, the product's name, and a very brief statement about the drug's indication. You can see here, obviously you guys are familiar with these, but that's where they would show up. So FDA said that because in many cases, the generic name was not included, the full fair balance was not included in the paid search link, even though you only have a very limited number of characters to do so, that they were therefore false and misleading. This was a big change from the way pharma companies had been operating. Everyone had been operating under what's considered the one-click rule. And again, this is not, never was formal guidance, never was issued or actually condoned by FDA. But I think that all pharma companies and medical, legal, regulatory, and frankly, the committees that I participated on assumed that it was okay because no one had ever been, been cited for it. Was that if the link in the paid search listing took you directly to a place where you could get the PI or the prescribing information, that was okay. These letters have shown that FDA does not think that that's okay. They haven't offered us a solution to the problem, but again, this immediately resulted in a chilling effect on paid search and the sponsored links. For me, I co-promoted a drug at my last company that the drug is called Vivitrol, and the generic term for it is naltrexone for extended release injectable suspension. I don't even know if I could fit that into a paid search link, let alone any information about the indication or what the any promotional information. So and again. Companies were given 15 days to respond to the letters and remove the links. Pretty much everybody immediately took them down. And we saw paid search dropped between the beginning of April and June, 84%. So that's a pretty staggering reduction in a method that many, many pharma companies were utilizing for their products. And Mark Senek from Fleischmann Hillard said, what we're all thinking, I think, right now there's no definition, there's no guidance, and we are certainly lagging behind less regulated industries in what we're able to do because of the lack of guidance from FDA. So, in response to that, on September 21st, as we all know, FDA has announced that there will be public hearings held next week regarding the web and social media, and they want to be able to develop guidance on how pharmaceutical companies can more appropriately utilize the internet in a compliant way. So, this is a nice thing for them to do. Again, I'm skeptical, a little cynical about whether anything is really going to come out of this and what the formal guidance will be. By the time they issue the guidance, will there be other technologies available that will not be covered? It's kind of a snowball, and I'm not sure if the chicken and the egg will ever kind of catch up with each other. Mixing metaphors there, sorry. So again, FDA is specifically interested in Web 2.0. They asked a series of questions, and I'm not going to go into them in great detail because I think everybody has seen them. But again, they want to address all of these topics that we've been talking about: blogs, microblogs like Twitter, podcasts, other social networking tools, online communities, video sharing widgets, and wikis. We're going to talk about Wikipedia and SideWiki specifically during our panel discussion. And they're also seeking public comment on internet adverse event reporting. So again, this is something that they're very concerned about. I don't know if it's a lack of understanding on their part. I mean, obviously they do have a responsibility to make sure that companies are reporting in an appropriate way. But I think that the industry community really doesn't see it as that different, an issue. I think there are bigger issues out there that FDA hasn't been thinking about. So again, I'm not going to go through all of the questions, but the general topic areas are, for what kinds of online communications are pharma companies responsible? So again, talking about whether it's something that you create and you sponsor, or whether it's a third party that's out there doing something, where does your responsibility stop? Do you have to go out and police what other companies are doing, what other parties are doing? Do you have a responsibility to correct that information? If so, how are you going to get the head count and the budget to be able to hire the thousands of people who are going to need to be able to, you're going to need to be able to monitor all of that information? Disclosure issues, again, this is sort of akin to the issues that we've seen with CME. In the pharma industry, there's been this huge shift on transparency. Another part of my job that I do is all of the state reporting and aggregate spend requirements. So again, we're seeing that shift in both the states and on the federal level to require more transparency from pharmaceutical companies. So I think this is just sort of another extension of the government wants to know where the company is in promoting their products. Is it a disguised promotional message, or is it actually an independent type of message that's out there? Are there different considerations depending on what kind of platform you're using? Should your rules for a Facebook fan page or group page be different from what is going to happen if your people are using Twitter? And then again, what has been the experience of companies on unauthorized dissemination of their information? I mean, all of you know that when you're on Twitter, you are able to retweet, and you could certainly change messaging very easily and then communicate that out again. Again, where does that responsibility lie, and what do you have to do as opposed to the responsibility stopping at a certain point? Making sure that fair balance is provided. Is it 1 click away? Is that okay? Is 2 clicks away okay? We received a question that we're going to talk about in the panel regarding mobile information. If you're disseminating information on a mobile platform, how do you get those recipients the ability to be able to access that PI information and other important fair balance information in a short, in a very small format? And again, making sure that there is fair balance, even if there is a space limitation or in a real-time communication format. And then, again, parameters on applying the posting of corrective information on third-party websites. Again, where does your responsibility stop?